Hi everyone, I am Pratim Bhosale. I work as a senior developer advocate with Treble, and today I'm here to share one of my spite projects that I've built because I didn't want to pay more money for AI IDs. This is still a work in progress. This is a project that I'm building to learn how AI IDs work, how they understand context of the questions that we're asking them, and where does all the money go. So quickly to understand a few things about Cargo Chat is a CLI based tool where you can ask questions to your code base. You can ask questions like anything, how you use cursor or any of your ID, you ask your code questions and it replies. Our IDs that we use currently, they go one step ahead. They also have agents. They actually change the code or they write code for you. Currently, my tool is at a stage where cursor was maybe like a year and a half ago, where we were just starting with understanding search and context, and we were quite happy when ChatGPT just understood our code. So that's where my project is, and please let's all go back a year back, and that's how we can connect well. Let me just. So let's just quickly see a demo first, and then I'd like to explain the basic flow of how any IDE works, or what's the secret sauce which makes tool calling so interesting. And when we say like, how did it understand what I wanted, or how did it convert fix this to actually understanding what error your code had, and how did it actually fix this? How did it understand what this meant? So let's try and run the code and see exactly how this works. Let me again get into.
Can you make it bigger?
Yes. That I. Is that visible now?
Yeah. You made it too close.
Ooh.
Your cursor.
Okay. Okay. Well, apologies for still struggling a little bit with the setup. I wish I was.
It's disappeared off the code page, but it's lower down the code page.
Okay.
Does it make sense to mirror that?
Okay, I added 2+. Well, not today. My code's gonna run today. Okay, so a few concepts to know when we're understanding any RAG for on base of code. So RAG has a few major concepts such as vector search. How many of you are aware of semantic search and vector search? Amazing. So we are going to skip the definition for this. Vector search basically understands what your query or whatever question you're asking beyond full text search. It doesn't just directly match word to word, but it understands the semantic, the meaning behind it. How it does is there's some mathematics involved, it converts it into vectors, and then it matches two similar vectors and gives you the semantic meaning for something. Then when I add a query, like for example, we will see ahead that I'm asking a question saying, how does hide work? There's a concept in this known as hide, which is super interesting, and we'll get there. But if I ask this code base itself, how does hide work? The basic flow of this tool is to first index the code base, because that's how it will convert all the code base into a vector index, and we'll store the vector index. For this, you can use different embedding models which will convert your code language to vector embeddings. There are multiple embedding models available out there. There is Gemini's API, which also gives you an embedding model available. For this one, because I wanted to keep it as cheap as possible, I have gone with Quen, which is open source, and the weights are also available to download. So if you want to play around and see how embedding works. you can use that. There is a complete MTEP board from Hugging Face where you will find all the metrics and performance data around different embedding models. This is where you would go and decide which embedding model is the best for your use case. If you're building a RAG for text, you would use an embedding model specific for text. If you were building RAG for healthcare, you would use an embedding model that is specific for biomedical data. So there are, for different types, there are different embedding models. And wait, let me just get back my screen. Okay. Yes. So I'm using Qwen because Qwen is supposed to be good understanding code context. And again, I also tried with Gina, but Gina was, it was a very small model which helped me to run it on a Mac. Qwen is bigger. I've used a bigger model which makes it, my laptop starts heating up when I'm running the index. But of course, we are all GPU poor here. If Nebius was to sponsor this, maybe then next time I can show on a bigger GPU model. But let's run it finally. Okay. So I have already indexed the code because indexing would take a minute and a half, and sometimes the laptop freezes because I'm on an air. But indexing will take, as I said, a minute, and then whatever code you want to index, if you were any other files, you would just give your file link, path link, and you would ask it to index. The CLI is also built from scratch. So we will just directly go and see, we will load, we'll run the code now. Please ignore my warnings. So yeah, currently it is saying no index because we haven't loaded the index, we just created an index. So we're gonna go ahead and load the index. So if you can see, the index file is already created, I'm just gonna load it. Okay, now we're all loaded, and I hope we, so we are currently I'm using two LLMs here. One is Qwen, which does the embedding part, and then finally we also use OpenAI at this point because I want to get a beautiful answer at the end of getting my vector indexed data and my query. I want the end result to be more readable, so I then patch up both the responses from my embedding model and then again send it to OpenAI. This is also what most of the IDs do, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But let's try a query. So now this is my favorite query. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for other examples. It does. If you want, you can definitely check it out. But what is hide and how is it used in this code base? That's my query. And I've given a variable k of 10. Your 10 stands for the number of documents I want to be referenced. So because I've built this tool specific for my use case, which is I also wanted to know at what is the code line from where it is referencing something and not just randomly hallucinating. So it will now generate an answer with GPT. Now this query hasn't directly gone to OpenAI. What happens is, when we get this code, okay, let's just wait and see what it's saying. I still have to add more details around how long I want my answer to be, but for now it just gives the whole answer. Let's see where we are. Yeah. So if you used other IDEs, there is a step of planning involved. So I have added a prompt that also tells the viewer what kind of, what is the user asking for, what is the planning that the LLM is going to use, and then it then moves into the actual code references where it tells you at what part of the code base can you find the functions that are involved. And if you go down, it will also give you code references. It tells you what file is it. This is not needed chunk ID and distance. This is most from the vector data, but I need to hide that. And then it will give you the actual code part as well. So this is the stage where the tool is right now. When you ask a query, the first thing that happens is a concept known as hide. How many of you all are aware of hide here? Hide stands for hypothetical document embedding, which means that before sending a query to the LLM directly, we add another step of semantic understanding, context aware for your ID. You give your query and you directly send it to an LLM, and without any context for your code, you ask it to give it an answer. So what will happen is when I ask the question, what is hide? It will just ask directly to OpenAI, what is hide? The output that comes from that answer is then converted into vectors, and those vectors are then matched to the vectors of our code base. This brings the accuracy up ahead compared to directly using the vectors from your query to your code base. So this is another level of context awareness that you can add to your RAG tool. What I learned from this whole process was that building IDs or building RAGs on top of code bases involves a lot of prompt engineering. It just doesn't stop at your LLM being super smart. It involves a lot of prompting where you decide how you want your code to be traversed. Final interesting part about this tool is tree sitter. How many of you are aware of what tree sitter is? So tree sitter is grammar for code. How would vectors or how would LLMs even understand what code is, what language it is? Like, okay, if you give it directly to OpenAI, it will understand. But before we go to the step of vectorizing the data, the first thing that happens is you have to let your embedding model understand what kind of code is it. Is it Rust-based code? Is it Python-based code? Is it JavaScript? So this is what tree sitter does. There are different tree sitters for different languages. You can use all of them together. Currently, the tool supports most of the languages. The grammar is then converted, and an AST file is brought out of it, and that helps in getting the vectors out. Finally, all the prompts and are inside the. It's an open source tool right now. You can go and check out. This is the most. This is the part where I have learned the most part of things about how you can improve your query, when you should show code snippets, when you don't want to show code snippets, and all of that. And this is all I have to share about the tool right now. It is still work in progress. I am happy to take suggestions or anything, and that's it from me. I will just share the final slide of my links if anyone wants to connect. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thanks a lot for the demo. I think it's really cool what you're trying to build. I have a question about your objectives. Are you building it more to learn how to develop IDs, or is that something that you want to use eventually? That's one thing. The second thing is that Google just open sourced their Gemini CLI, I think a couple of days ago. Have you considered using that to build on top of it? No. Okay, thanks.
I was actually not aware that Google open sourced their CLI. So now that I know, I will definitely check that. The reason I started to build this was because I was frustrated every time Cursor's searching tool would just break and it would fall from there. And even for those tool calls, I would have to pay. Like, you're basically paying for all tool calls, and sometimes the tool call would just be a grep. So I don't want to pay for a grep. But yeah, it started out from spite, where I wanted to understand how IDs or like even RAG on top of code bases are built. I don't know where this will go. As long as my weekends fuel this, I will keep fueling it. But it's been a great learning about specifically understanding vector search in depth and understanding prompt engineering. I always thought this was just a fad. Or what is it? Like, it should understand me if you're building LLMs, but prompt engineering can actually really make your results be better. So that was my output, yeah.
Hey Pratim, so I had like one question around, so there are two camps right now. So there's the vector search camp, which is like Cursor and all these IDEs, and then there is the agentic search camp, which is Claude Code and Gemini CLI, where they don't essentially use like vector, they don't index the code base, they just simply use the models to like keep searching through the code base, like agentic search, right? They just like the agent search through the code base and stuff. I'm curious if you have explored like that side of things for this, because I'm always curious as like to how models are like now just picking the right tool, like being able to search through the code base without having to index it in the first place, and if you've been able to like play around with that side of things with some of the more smarter models like O4 or Claude or something like that.
I feel as a producer or as a B2B consumer, tool call like model pricing or usage will get cheaper and cheaper for companies, but I'm not sure if that's the same case as a single developer consumer. Like for me, I'm not sure if the cost of every tool call will get cheaper, because I just see higher and higher prices and tiers of IDs coming up. There is Pro, there is Pro Max, there will be Pro Max. But the point is that it depends on how much access you have to model usage. If you are someone like me who's struggling and wants to save like money while they're tinkering with home use cases, you can use vector search. But if accuracy is that, if you're using this for, I wouldn't use this for production ever. The point is like if you want to build something for accuracy or medical, then you would definitely want to go with just more access to model. Yeah.
All right, I think that's it for this one. Thank you so much, Pratim.